Hi, hello, my name is Callie and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be my March TBR list, so without further ado, let's get into it. In the month of March, I am taking part in two different challenges. The first one is the YearAthon, which is on Twitter, and I'll leave their Twitter handle linked down below. And the YearAthon, every month there's a different challenge. So the month of March it is retellings, so I've kind of stuck to that theme for some of these books. And the second challenge that I'm taking part in is the Irish Readathon, which is hosted by a few different Irish YouTubers. Again, I'll leave them all linked down below. And so they have, I think it's 4 or 5 different challenges as well, so I've got a book for each challenge. The first book I'm going to read for the YearAthon challenge is Cinders, and that is by Merissa Meyers. And this is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles, and I really don't know a lot about this series except for that they take kind of like classic fairy tales and then basically throw them into the future, so there are like cyborgs and robots and like all kinds of things going on in this. So this novel, it follows the story of a young cyborg who's a mechanic, I believe, and she's living with her, basically her evil stepmother, and she is blamed for the sickness of her stepsister. And somehow she gets involved with the prince and a bit of action happens with that. But like I said, I don't really know a lot about this book, but I've heard so much good things about the Lunar Chronicles that I'm really excited to start. The next book that I have is Throne of Glass, and that's by Sarah J. Maas. I've heard so many good things about Sarah J. Maas's books, so I'm really excited to finally pick one up. As much as I know is that this is a retelling of Cinderella. It follows an assassin as she tries to fight for her freedom, but it sounds pretty kick-ass. So the next book that I want to read for the YearAthon is Ash. I've not actually got it from the library yet, hopefully should be able to get it before the week ends, but again it is another Cinderella retelling. I think you can see a theme with this. It follows a girl named Ash, and she is kind of found herself living at her stepmother's house. I don't know if her parents died or if they've just kind of like disappeared. And it says that Ash thinks she's basically done for, but she doesn't know the legacy that her mum has left behind for her, and this legacy is leading her into like this mythical world. So it's kind of like Cinderella meets fantasy, which I think sounds fantastic. So for the Irish Readathon, I've picked out some books to meet the challenge. The first challenge of the Irish Readathon is a Irish classic. Now the only one I could think of off the top of my head was Bram Stoker's Dracula, but my library didn't have that in, so instead, let me find it. So instead I've picked up Bogchild by Siobhan Dowd. This one was recommended to me by a friend, and I really don't know much about it except for a body of a child is found in like a swamp bog thing, and they think that the child's been murdered, so I think it's going to be like a bit of a thriller, but I'm really excited to read it because it sounds really good. I believe it's set during like the Irish Troubles as well, so I'm sure there'll be like some political background in it as well to make it even more interesting. So the next one was an Irish contemporary. That was the next challenge. So I've actually picked 2 books, but the first book is called Unspoken. That's by Sarah Rees Brennan, and the second book is called Untold. It follows a young girl named Cammy, and she has fallen in love with a boy that the rest of the world thinks is imaginary, and it just sounds really, really interesting. It's part of the Lynburn Legacy series, and I believe I think there's about 4 books possibly. So I've got the first 2 here, and if I like them I'll definitely pick up the rest. It fits into the Irish contemporary category, so that's why I picked them up, and because I liked the sound of the first one, I picked up the second one as well. The next book I picked up is The Wonder, and that is by Emma Donoghue. So I picked this one up to meet the challenge of an Irish novel set in like a historical point, but I didn't know if it meant like a point in history that was like of significance to Ireland, like maybe set in like the Troubles times, or like set like maybe during the famine or something like that. It's a historical novel, it's a historical fiction that's set in Ireland, so I think it counts. If not, I'll just use the Bogchild and double that one up, but I think this one counts. This one follows a nurse, and she is sent to investigate a little girl who's stopped eating. So this girl stopped eating, but she's still managing to live. So it's a bit of like a weird mystery around that, and I'm assuming there's some kind of like magical element in there to how this girl's surviving. But again, I don't really know a lot about it, but can we just appreciate how pretty this cover is? I just thought it was really, really lovely, and I do love a tree. But I just thought it was really, really lovely cover as well, so I wanted to pick up that one. And because it's quite short and the writing is really big, so I thought it would be quite an easy read to get through as well. The next book I picked up, this is for the challenge of a book with a green cover, and that is the Pic of Lost Things, and that is by Connolly. So this book, I know it deals with grief. So the young protagonist in this is a young boy, and I believe his mum dies, and it's a story of him trying to kind of cope with this loss, and as he's coping with this loss he gets sucked into like a fairy tale world, and in this world he's trying to find the Book of Lost Things. I don't know if he thinks that's going to help him, but I know that it's just meant to be a lovely story about grief and overcoming grief, especially for such a young main character as well. So I like that one, and again, a lovely cover, nice and green and shiny, but the main point being it's green. And the final book I picked up for the Irish Readathon is In the Woods by Tana. So I picked this one up because it's by a female Irish author, and that meets the very last challenge in the Readathon. So In the Woods, it is a crime novel, and it follows a detective, and when he was a young boy he went into the woods with two of his friends, and he was the only one to come out. Friends' bodies had never been found and no one knew what happened to him, but he came out of the woods with like blood filled up in his shoes, and everything was just a big like chaos basically because two young boys went missing. And it follows him as he's now a police detective, and a young girl has went missing in the same area that this trauma had happened to him in the past. So it follows him being a detective at the time, and I just think it sounds really, really interesting. I do love crime books, so I'm really intrigued to start this one, and I just think it's going to be a fantastic read. So that is the 8 books I want to read for the 2 different challenges that I'm doing this month. I will probably get through a little bit more, hopefully, but I think I'll just pick those up as I go along. These are the only ones that I've got out from the library just now, so maybe I'll get a start on some of the books I've been buying, or I'll probably just take out more books from the library, to be honest. But these are the 8 that I've picked. If you know anything about these books, if you want to like recommend me any more books, just leave me a wee comment down below and we can have a nice wee chat. But it would mean the world to me if you could give this video a big thumbs up, and if you could hit that subscribe button as well down below, because you want to see this face all the time. But I will see you all in the next video. Bye!